Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel and some more Hail Caesar here as we wind down to the last, or almost last, of the faction review videos. We've got one more after this, but today, a fun list for sure, and that is the Teutonic Crusaders, covering roughly 12th and 13th centuries. So, if you're obviously familiar with the time period already, and you know a little bit about the Crusades, you know what the list is going to be about. But we got cavalry and infantry. We do have to have a little bit of both at 25%. And again, we can swing one way or the other up to 75% or go very balanced with that. Now, the knights do have to be 50% of the cavalry, as you might expect, because they're going to bring a lot of the heavy-hitting firepower that this list will have. But some sort of knightly order, basically. And then from there, we'll go on and cover the other ones. Divisions, fairly typical, and skirmishers per division at 25%. Let's jump in. There's a lot going on here. So you're just regular Teutonic knights, heavy cavalry with lances, super hard hitting, 34 points, eager and tough fighters. Basically your standard unit. If we want to, we can also pay extra to make them cataphracts, another 4 points, but that will add stubborn. And again, you got yourself one hell of a unit. That is going to be a lot for anyone to deal with. And you get multiples. You get mercenary or other knights, heavy cavalry with lances. Again, just a little bit of a step down. But the sergeants here, sorry, you can also make those cataphracts here. We're getting on to the next entry. But you have that as well. And then here that'll give you stubborn for another 34 points. Really, unless you want that, though, I mean, for one extra point, you get all that, but with the Teutonic Knights just being slightly better, right? So that 1 point really isn't making that much of a difference. We then get sergeants with lances, and basically kind of a generic unit just sandwiched in there, but still a heavy unit. But again, for one more point, you get the base Teutonic Knight unit, so might as well go for that, right? So I feel like they could have probably costed them a little bit differently given what's going on in this list. We get the Turcopoles, light cavalry with spears and or javelins as small units. Again, your typical harasser unit and feigned flight for 19 points. We get the Hungarian version of that for 2 points more, but we also get 2 for long range and still feigned flight. So ultimately here, I think the superior unit, right? Getting us a little bit of ranged firepower. Again, this list is all about just basically smashing people in the face and winning in combat, but having a little bit of ranged is actually well worth it. We then also get the option to give the Hungarians lances for another 2 points, getting a little bit more expensive, but kind of puts them in an interesting spot with light cavalry and lances, right? Doing a little bit of extra hitting there. Certainly can start taking on other small units and doing really well and chewing up things like missile units in combat. We also get another weird unit here in the sense of just what it all is composed of. Heavy cavalry with crossbows as a small unit. It's just the one unit. They still actually fight with a 6 of clash, but obviously going to get real weak real soon if the fight goes on. But again, it's a small unit. But it gives us heavy cavalry with that 4+ save and mobility, and another 2 for long range, sitting at 22 points. So interesting spot for that. The Teutonic Brother or Mercenary Heavy Infantry, leaving the cavalry now. Your typical heavy infantry unit, although comes base with stubborn here, so can't really complain about that. Heavy infantry and stubborn is a good way to go. Would have been interesting to see drilled, but yeah, we'll take stubborn though. Now, if we want to, we can reduce them to make heavy infantry German settlers, and basically we're just getting a 3-point reduction and losing stubborn there. So if we're hurting for points because of all the stuff above, that could be something too. Now we do get the heavy infantry option essentially with crossbows, 27 points. Again, a heavy crossbow unit. Fights pretty decently still because it's infantry and not a small unit, although we can pay to reduce that, actually get a discount, and then get the small unit option. But again, heavy infantry shooting those wonderful 3s at long range. So this list has a surprising amount of firepower once we get down to the infantry here. Then the settler medium infantry with crossbows. So again, if we really aren't looking for that 4-up save, we get that, and again the discount to make them small units. So we're getting some really cheap options to start filling blocks of pretty hard-hitting long-range shots. And then finally, medium infantry subject converts with spears. So if we're just looking for like cheap filler, we can add that again just for effect, I guess. But you know, if we pay the extra point, right, or a couple points, the the mercenary heavy infantry with crossbows will fight as good as those medium infantry, do better at range, and have a better save. So for like 4 points more, that's kind of almost making them redundant, right? We do have light infantry with bows, though, which is pretty cool for 21 points. Again, purely there for shooting. They're not going to do much in combat. And then actually just skirmishers. Finally, a list that doesn't have javelin skirmishers and just has skirmishers with bows, but again, yet more long-range firepower, and all with leadership 8. I mean, the list is almost going to play itself. Just give some smart orders, get into combat, and essentially mop people up, and you can soften them up with quite a bit of firepower as well. So, as you might expect, the Teutonic list is quite the powerhouse. Not as over the top on some of the units, but just as you might expect with some of like the other special rules out there. But just you have quantity here and everything that you could possibly want. Superb cavalry, fantastic infantry, tons of firepower. You don't need artillery. This list was just going to bash people in the face, and usually come out on top. So, and I mean, in a pinch, some of your missile units can actually scrap it up in combat as well, and maybe push those other units into panicking and fleeing and stuff, and just help wipe them out. So, all in all, a fun list. Let us know if you've actually played in the Crusader time period for Hail Caesar. If you've run this list, what have you played against? If it was contemporary or something else, let us know. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and we'll have one last video in the series covering the Mongols before we wrap up Hail Caesar factions from the main book. Thanks so much for watching. If you want to support the channel, check out the pinned comment, and we'll see you in the next one.